Imagine for a moment that 80 to 90% of all intelligence activities across Western nations, yeah, the kind of operation you might think are top secret. Imagine they actually happen right out in the open, using information you might have posted online. Now take that and imagine artificial intelligence just supercharging that whole process to an unprecedented, almost unbelievable degree. That's the scale we're talking about today, and frankly, it's personally relevant to every single one of us. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into the fascinating and, yeah, sometimes unsettling world of AI-powered open source intelligence, or OSINT as it's known. Our mission today is pretty clear. We're going to unpack how artificial intelligence is fundamentally transforming how we collect, analyze, and understand publicly available information. We'll explore what this huge shift means for governments, for businesses, and most critically, for you. We'll look at the powerful capabilities AI brings to OSINT, its, well, sometimes surprising real-world applications, the technical backbone making it all work, and the deep ethical and societal implications, which are already reshaping our world, really. Because this isn't just about spies and secret agents anymore, not really. This is about your digital footprint, your privacy, and how every tweet, every photo, every bit of information you put out there, even if it feels private, can be rapidly aggregated, analyzed by powerful AI systems. These systems can potentially create incredibly detailed profiles about anyone, including you, often without you even knowing or consenting. To help us navigate this complex and rapidly evolving landscape, we have our expert guide with us today, someone who can really connect the dots and give us that deeper context we need to truly understand this revolution.
It's great to be here. And, it's a fascinating topic. When we talk about OSINT, historically, the big challenge has always been scale, just the sheer volume of data. Human analysts, no matter how brilliant, they just couldn't keep pace with the petabytes of data generated every single day. So AI steps in as the absolutely critical solution to this information overload bottleneck. It transforms OSINT from being, largely reactive digging for answers after something happens into a proactive powerhouse. It allows for predictive insights. And that statistic you mentioned, 80 and 90% of Western intelligence coming from open sources, that really underscores the monumental shift. AI isn't just improving things, it's redefining what's even possible.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We've mentioned OSINT a few times now, but for anyone who might be new to the concept, what exactly is open source intelligence? Can you simplify it a bit?
Sure, absolutely. So at its core, OSINT is intelligence that comes solely from publicly available information. Think of it like gathering insights from data that's just out there for anyone to access, really, if they know where to look and how. This covers everything from news articles, public government reports, open scientific research, social media posts, public financial records, even commercial satellite imagery these days. Traditionally, intelligence communities, law enforcement, cybersecurity firms, even investigative journalists have relied heavily on OSINT. But the problem always was just the sheer volume. Trying to find that needle of insight in this massive digital haystack was, well, painstaking and often pretty much impossible for humans alone.
Right. So if the data has always been open, what makes AI so disruptive now? What's fundamentally different? Why wasn't this happening decades ago?
That's really where AI becomes revolutionary. Because historically, OSINT was incredibly labor-intensive, really manual. Analysts would spend countless hours, manually sifting through documents, running keyword searches, trying to connect often disparate pieces of information, piece things together. It was slow. It was prone to human bias, human error. And frankly, it just couldn't keep pace with the exponential growth of digital data we've seen. This is what some are calling an informational pivot, because AI allows for timely collection and analysis that simply wasn't possible before. It changes the speed, the scale. To give you a concrete idea, there was a 2025 Wibasha report. It highlighted how AI-powered OSINT tools have cut down analysis time for complex investigations from days to mere hours.
Days to hours. That's incredible. That speed increase. What does that mean for the kinds of threats we can now detect? Or maybe the timelines for responding? How does AI actually change the whole process from finding the info to, making sense of it?
Well, it fundamentally redefines almost every phase of the traditional intelligence cycle. It really does. Let's start with collection. AI automates gathering data from loads of different sources. It cuts out a lot of that manual effort. This involves AI-driven web crawlers, data mining techniques. They scan and pull information from the surface, what you browse normally, the deep web stuff behind logins, like databases, and even the dark web, the really hidden parts. So it's not about someone manually searching anymore. It's about AI passively collecting huge amounts of data and also actively identifying specific relevant information, much more targeted. Then you get to processing and analysis, and this is where AI truly shines. turning all that raw data into actual insight. Natural language processing, NLP, and these large language models, LLMs like GPT-4, they're phenomenal here. It's transformative. They parse text, extract keywords, entities like names, locations. They perform sophisticated sentiment analysis. They can even pick up on nuances like sarcasm in social media posts, which is tricky. LLMs can summarize vast documents, answer complex questions, trace entire narratives across different sources, basically turning raw text into digestible insights. Then for visual data, you have computer vision. It identifies objects, people, activities from images, from videos. Think about automatically spotting, say, specific military vehicles and photos people upload online, or precisely geolocating a photo by analyzing landmarks in the background. Predictive analytics and machine learning algorithms, they're great at spotting non-obvious patterns, things humans might miss, like unusual user behavior on social media that could flag a potential threat long before a human analyst pieces it together. And don't forget audio analysis, using speech recognition to transcribe calls or videos, identifying speakers from their voice prints, even analyzing background sounds like gunshots or engine types for geolocation. And finally, in the dissemination phase, AI systems can generate comprehensive reports. They can visualize complex data relationships. Tools like Maltego, for instance, they use machine learning to map out connections between individuals, organizations, websites, presenting it all in a graph format. This makes incredibly complex links much easier for human analysts to grasp and then act upon. It turns that mountain of raw info into clear, actionable intelligence.
Now, here's something really interesting, a consequence of all this. It's not just about making things more efficient for the usual players, the big agencies. It seems like it's changing who can even do intelligence work. What are the implications of that? That shift in power.
Yeah, that's one of the most significant and maybe often overlooked implications. Historically, intelligence work, the serious stuff, was largely the exclusive domain of national intelligence agencies, right? They had the resources, the people, and crucially, exclusive access to the really sophisticated tools. But now, the increasing accessibility of advanced AI algorithms, richer public data sets, cheaper computing power, it's rapidly eroding that traditional monopoly. There's that saying, who rules AI commands intelligence, and it really extends beyond just states now. It means well-funded private companies, non-state actors like NGOs, or even, highly determined tech-savvy individuals. They can now, in specific areas, potentially produce intelligence that's on par with, or maybe even better than, traditional state agencies. This creates what some call an asymmetric advantage. It's fundamentally redistributing power in the intelligence world. Information superiority is becoming less about the state apparatus and more about pure technological capability.
So it's not just improving old systems, it's fundamentally redistributing power to actors who might never have had it before. That's huge. And this power shift also seems to be blurring the lines around what open source even means. How so?
Precisely. AI is actively challenging our whole notion of publicly available information. What does that phrase even mean anymore? Traditionally, OSINT focused on data that was, easy to find, publicly indexed. But these AI-driven tools, they can access and analyze data from less obvious places. Think closed forums, private chat groups, even dark web marketplaces that aren't picked up by standard search engines. So while you or I might think our data is hidden or private within those spaces, an AI can effectively make it open for analysis, simply because it has the ability to scrape and process it at scale. The really profound insight here is that the definition of publicly available is becoming less of a human or legal construct and more of a technical one, redefined by AI's capability. And that fundamentally challenges our existing norms, our assumptions about privacy. It's a big shift.
Okay, we've explored the radical shifts AI is bringing to OSINT, the theory, the potential. But to really grasp its power, we need to see it in action. Let's look at how these capabilities are actually being deployed in the real world by powerful institutions and maybe beyond, starting with governments and the military. Where are we seeing AI-powered OSINT make the biggest splash there?
Oh, definitely in strategic intelligence and national security. Those are enormous beneficiaries, governments, militaries. They're extensively using AI-enhanced OSINT for threat detection, for situational awareness, all the time now. For example, you have automated tools mining social media, the deep web, in real time, looking for extremist plots, emerging threats, flagging suspicious chat activity or image uploads, giving early warnings for potential violence or cyber attacks. Platforms like Palantir's Gotham are critical here. They link up all sorts of diverse open data sources, geospatial imagery, social media posts, public records, to build these comprehensive threat pictures. And during the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, for instance, a Ukrainian official specifically noted that AI tools help them process huge amounts of information within a few hours. automating the search, the analysis of propaganda, digital evidence. The U.S. Department of Defense also uses AI-based OSINT systems to map foreign military assets, track troop movements using satellite images and public posts. That's a huge leap from trying to do that manually.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what's fascinating, too, is how police forces are grappling with just this overwhelming amount of online data. How is AI helping them or maybe hindering them?
Indeed. Law enforcement agencies globally are adopting these solutions really rapidly. Europol actually reported that faced with just overwhelming data from online sources, many forces are shifting towards AI-driven tools to sift through that flood of social media, forums, darknet posts, what they often call SOC-MT, social media intelligence. Machine learning models can identify patterns, networks of criminal activity that a human analyst might simply miss in the noise. These automated tools take unstructured data posts, messages, and reformat it, providing real-time insights for ongoing investigations. So, tasks like linking different defendants in a criminal network, tracing the origins of cyber threats, or even reconstructing crime scenes from photos shared on social media. They now often involve AI-powered search and analysis. A specific example: U.S. law enforcement reportedly used AI-based OSINT software after the January 6th Capitol riot to comb through social media, helping identify and ultimately charge roughly 90% of the suspects by piecing together all those public posts and videos.
All right. So it's not just governments and police. We're seeing non-state actors like
Yeah.
journalists, NGOs.
Yeah.
They're getting access to this power, too. How are they using AI in their work?
That's a really crucial point about the democratization of intelligence, if you like. Investigative journalists, civil society organizations, they're harnessing AI for OSINT in incredibly powerful ways now. You have open source investigative platforms like Bellingcat's Toolkit. They aggregate satellite imagery, social media feeds, official records,
Yeah.
often aided by AI assistants. Large language models, things like GPT-4, they can summarize lengthy, dense documents, transcribe video interviews, even assist with search strategies for finding obscure information online. Makes it much easier for reporters to sift through mountains of digital content to find those key details. Image recognition is also vital. Analysts use geolocation algorithms to match, say, images of conflict damage to specific locations on a map. Deep learning models can even detect subtle signs like potential mass graves in satellite photos. In Ukraine, we've seen citizen journalists and NGOs explicitly using AI tools to verify and contextualize combat videos, helping to document potential war crimes. The significance is pretty clear. AI allows these non-state investigators to conduct OSINT at a scale that was once exclusively reserved for governments with huge budgets.
And how does this translate to the business world, personal investigations? Are corporations using AI OSINT in similar ways?
Oh, absolutely. Competitive intelligence, security intelligence for corporations, they're being supercharged by AI OSINT. In cybersecurity, for example, machine learning systems are deployed to monitor hacker forums, track new malware signatures, correlate leaked data sets. It's essentially OSINT applied to cyberspace to predict and prevent attacks before they happen. Financial fraud investigators are using NLP models to scan transaction records, public disclosures, looking for anomalies or criminal links that would just be impossible for a human to spot in time, given the volume. Corporate security teams mine social media and news feeds, looking for reputational threats, using AI for real-time brand sentiment analysis, seeing what people are saying. And even private investigators, when they're doing due diligence, they often rely on AI tools now, linking disparate online profiles using network analysis or using face recognition databases to identify a person in a photo. Speeds up investigations massively. This widespread adoption really shows how pervasive AI and OSINT has become. It's changing how information is gathered and used across pretty much every sector.
Okay, this raises a really important question, one that comes directly back to our listeners. I mean, what does this mean for your digital life? If everything you put online is potential fodder for AI, where does that leave our privacy? What are the implications for us as individuals?
That's precisely the core concern for individuals, isn't it? AI-powered OSINT dramatically increases the reach of surveillance and the vulnerabilities of our personal data. Every social media post, every video upload, every online record. It all becomes grist for these OSINT algorithms, potential input. We're building this digital shadow that just grows ever larger as more and more of our lives move online. AI tools are basically designed to vacuum up vast amounts of publicly posted information. As one expert put it, modern facial recognition systems literally scrape everything that's posted online, from GPS tag photos to device metadata hidden in files. This means your movements, your associations, your habits, they can potentially be built into incredibly detailed profiles, often without your explicit consent or even your knowledge. This kind of passive tracking, it's a profound shift in how our online presence is perceived and how it's utilized. It makes nearly everything you do online a potential data point for someone, somewhere.
And perhaps the most visible, maybe the most concerning example of this is facial recognition technology. What should we understand about its capabilities and its implications for our personal privacy?
Facial recognition is definitely a frontline example of this shift. Yeah, you have companies like Clearview AI. They've compiled these massive face databases by scraping billions, literally billions of images from social media, from other public sites. This allows law enforcement, for example, to upload a photo maybe from CCTV, maybe from a witness, and instantly get potential matches from this huge database. But, and this is a huge but, there are significant concerns about the accuracy, particularly differential accuracy. Studies consistently show these technologies are less accurate for women and for people with darker skin tones. This disparity leads to a disproportionate risk of wrongful identifications for certain groups, which is deeply problematic. We saw this play out tragically in Delhi, for example. There was a case where 29 individuals were arrested based solely on an AI face match, with no other corroborating evidence. They ended up spending years in prison, only later for it to emerge that most were innocent. This case really highlights a profound threat to due process, doesn't it? When a misidentification by an AI system can effectively become probable cause for detention. What's also alarming is just how quickly the technology is evolving. Even things like wearing a mask or glasses, they no longer reliably protect against recognition as these AI systems get better and better.
Wow. And it's not just faces, is it? AI is tracking much more than that. How expensive is this mass surveillance and tracking actually becoming?
No, it goes well beyond just facial recognition. AI augments a whole host of other tracking technologies. Smart CCTV networks, for instance, can now incorporate person detection and behavior analysis, identifying individuals by their body shape, their clothing, their gait, even when faces are covered, effectively sidestepping facial recognition bans in some places. You have license plate readers, drone sensors, often AI-enhanced logging vehicle movements, drone flights. There have been reports of authorities considering combining license plate scans, cell tower logs, social media monitoring, essentially to build these comprehensive movement dossiers on activists or specific communities, painting a detailed picture of their lives, their associations, often without any explicit consent. A particularly chilling example is the reported U.S. Catch and Revoke initiative. Here, AI systems apparently from companies like Palantir and Babel Street continually scan foreign students' social media posts, their travel histories, flagging visa risks. This has reportedly led to mass visa revocations and deportations. Amnesty International documented how this process seemed to disproportionately affect pro-Palestinian activists. It demonstrates how AI can be used to target specific groups based on their online activity and associations, not necessarily any illegal action.
This must have a profound impact on freedom of expression, right? If you know everything you say online could be monitored and potentially used against you, what does that do to open discourse, to the ability to dissent?
Absolutely. The potential for reputational risk and speech surveillance is immense, and it creates a genuine chilling effect on free expression. It really does. Social media posts, even maybe comments in closed groups that get scraped and ingested by AI that can be held against individuals, by employers, by government entities. Amnesty International, as I mentioned, documented how U.S. authorities allegedly used AI tools to scan social media specifically for pro-Palestinian activism, and then targeted international students for visa revocation based on that. The mere existence of these powerful surveillance systems can deter lawful protest, open discussion, because individuals start to self-censor. They worry about being flagged or targeted even for perfectly legal speech. Furthermore, there's the risk of AI decontextualizing content, labeling a strongly worded opinion as extremism through crude sentiment analysis, perhaps. This significantly raises the risk of harassment or even legal action based on misunderstood online behavior. It's a very real threat to our civil liberties and to the kind of vibrant exchange of ideas that's essential in a free society.
And what's fascinating, or maybe alarming here, is how quickly the tech seems to be outpacing the rules, our legal frameworks, our ethical guidelines, keeping up with this rapid deployment at all.
Unfortunately, no, not really. The rise of AI OSINT has largely outpaced existing legal protections. That seems clear. Many places simply lack robust limits on mass data scraping or on how that scraped data can be used in policing or intelligence. Even where some specific bans exist, like maybe on facial recognition in certain cities like San Francisco, law enforcement can often easily evade them by contracting private companies or outsourcing searches to agencies not bound by the local ban. Regulators are frequently described as playing catch-up. They struggle to even understand these complex AI pipelines, let alone regulate them effectively, and laws often lag years behind the technological advancements. While we see proposed regulations like the EU AI Act aiming to impose some safeguards, their full scope and, crucially, their enforcement remain pretty open questions. Without clear rules, without transparency, without meaningful recourse for individuals, people are often left completely unaware of how their data is being used. And they have little to no ability to challenge AI surveillance errors, even when those errors have profound impacts on their lives.
So summing that part up, AI-powered OSINT really intensifies mass surveillance. It enables the creation of incredibly detailed profiles from public information. And this poses enormous risks to civil liberties, especially for vulnerable groups, all without adequate oversight or clear rules. That's quite a picture. Okay, let's dive into some more concrete examples where AI has played a pivotal role to really bring this home, starting with war and conflict zones, which sadly are increasingly digital battlegrounds as well as physical ones. How is AI OSINT being used there?
Yeah, in war and conflict, AI OSINT is proving transformative, particularly for accountability efforts. Take the Ukraine war crimes investigations, ongoing since 2022. The Ukrainian government and various NGOs have explicitly turned to AI tools, things like Microsoft Azure Analytics, Palantir's platform. They're using them to manage just the sheer deluge of evidence coming out of the Russian invasion, sifting through millions of documents, images, videos. Palantir's data crunching reportedly helped identify over 400 suspects, leading to roughly 50 convictions so far in war crimes cases. AI has also been applied to satellite imagery, drone footage, automatically flagging things like potential mass burial sites or systematically destroyed buildings, which helps prioritize investigations. NGOs are even experimenting with LLMs like ChatGPT to help organize witness testimonies, build timelines. Officials involved estimate that AI has greatly accelerated their investigations into alleged war crimes, speeding up the path to potential justice in a way that would be simply impossible with human analysts trying to process that volume alone.
That's a powerful positive use case. But AI's impact on protest and civil unrest seems like a much starker example of its dual-use nature. How have we seen this play out in recent events?
It's a perfect illustration of the double-edged sword, isn't it? Even before the current AI boom, OSINT was transforming protest documentation. Think back to the January 6th insurrection in the U.S. in 2021. Much of the evidence came from the demonstrators' own footage, shared widely online. That powered the FBI's investigation, helping identify nearly 90% of the defendants charged. Today, AI takes that much, much further. It can automatically sift through hours of video, thousands of images, flagging known individuals, or maybe identifying weapons in the footage. NLP models can scan message boards, social media, detecting calls for protest or potential violence, giving law enforcement early warnings. However, the dark side is equally, if not more, evident. Amnesty International reported on the U.S. 2025 pro-Palestine protests. They documented U.S. agencies allegedly using Palantir's AI and Babel Street's BabelX platform to specifically scan social media targeting pro-Palestinian student protesters. These platforms apparently analyzed posts for keywords, for sentiment, cross-reference that with visa records, leading in some cases to automatic visa revocations. Amnesty warns about the high potential for erroneous results and mass rights violations due to the probabilistic nature of AI inferences and inherent biases in the systems. This is a clear case of AI OSINT being used against individuals for their speech, their expressed opinions, not just for overt criminal acts. It perfectly illustrates that chilling effect we talked about. And the Delhi anti-CIA protests in 2020. That case is particularly sobering. It shows the real dangers of over-reliance on AI in policing. The Delhi police use specific software, AMPT-5 for image enhancement, and Infilab's AI vision for biometric recognition. Based solely on matches from the AI facial recognition system, 29 people were arrested. It later emerged most were innocent bystanders. They spent years in prison without any credible non-AI evidence against them. A Pulitzer Center report on this concluded quite starkly that AI took over policing and ordinary people bore the brunt. It really underscores the peril of depending uncritically on these powerful tools, especially when fundamental human rights are at stake. We need human oversight, strong validation.
Right. Shifting gears a bit, how is AI impacting the battle for truth and digital security? Especially against things like cybercrime and disinformation, it really sounds like another arena for an AI arms race.
It absolutely is, a constant back and forth. In the fight against disinformation campaigns, AI OSINT is becoming a critical tool for defenders. Fact-checkers now feed social media streams into machine learning pipelines. They cluster similar posts, use NLP models to automatically flag known false narratives or suspicious patterns. Researchers have used techniques like semantic similarity measures from LLM embeddings. Basically, using AI to understand meaning. to trace how conspiracy narratives spread across platforms like Twitter. AI can help attribute disinformation campaigns by analyzing writing styles or map out bot networks coordinating messages. For instance, during the 2022 US elections and the pandemic, analysts used AI to identify literally thousands of unique disinformation narratives circulating online. However, as the Reuters Institute noted, while AI is helpful, it still struggles, especially with smaller languages or understanding complex cultural contexts. It's not a silver bullet. And for corporate espionage and fraud, OSINT, powered by AI, is crucial on both sides. Defenders use AI to scour hacker forums, dark web markets, looking for leaked employee credentials or chatter about planned attacks against their company. AI-driven blockchain analysis tools can trace ransomware payments made in cryptocurrency on public ledgers, helping track the criminals. But on the attack side, the chilling example of the deepfake voice call, where AI perfectly impersonated a CEO's voice, tricking a financial manager into transferring $220,000 to a fraudster's account, this isn't theoretical anymore. It's a real-world threat with massive financial and reputational consequences.
Okay, that's a lot covered in terms of applications
Mm-hmm.
and some truly stark real-world examples there. But how does the magic actually happen? What are the core underlying technologies making all this possible? And what are their maybe strengths and limitations?
Right, the magic, as you put it, it's built on a pretty sophisticated technical arsenal, a collection of AI techniques working together. At the core, you've got natural language processing, NLP, and large language models, LLMs.
Hmm.
These advanced models, things like GPT-4 variants and similar architectures, they're extensively used. They parse text, summarize huge documents, extract key entities' names, locations, organizations. They perform sentiment analysis, trying to figure out the emotion or opinion expressed. They can even answer complex questions asked in natural language over vast amounts of open text data. LLMs can cluster thousands of social media posts by their underlying narrative theme, condense news articles, even suggest search strategies for finding obscure information. They act like a super-powered research assistant, really. However, and this is a crucial caveat we need to keep repeating, LLMs can sometimes hallucinate. They can generate plausible-sounding but factually incorrect information. So human vetting, human oversight of their outputs remains absolutely vital to ensure accuracy. You can't just trust them blindly. Then there's computer vision, CV, and image analysis. These technologies are what power the image recognition capabilities we've discussed. Applications include highly accurate facial recognition systems, object detection algorithms. These can pick out specific items like weapons or certain types of vehicles in photos or video footage. And geolocation inference, where algorithms compare landmarks seen in a photo to features on satellite maps to figure out where it was taken. This allows analysts to do things like detect specific foreign tank models or even missile launches just from analyzing publicly available YouTube videos, for instance. Tools like Google Lens, reverse image search engines, specialized video forensics software used for deblurring or clarifying poor quality footage. They all leverage these kinds of AI capabilities. Government agencies like the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, are heavily investing in applying AI to geospatial intelligence. GeoInt aiming to produce trusted GeoInt at speed and scale. Audio and speech analysis is another critical component. We're getting better and better at this. Speech recognition models, like OpenAI's Whisper, can transcribe audio data maybe from intercepts, recordings, social media videos, turning spoken words into text for NLP analysis. Speaker recognition AI can potentially identify who is speaking based on their unique voice print. Automatic translation models break down language barriers in intercepted communications or online content. AI can even analyze other audio cues, like the sound of gunshots to estimate caliber or location, or engine sounds to identify vehicle types, adding another layer of intelligence from sound alone. We also have metadata extraction. This is often overlooked but very powerful. AI OSINT tools can automatically extract hidden metadata from digital files. Things like XIF data in photos, which can contain timestamps, GPS coordinates, camera settings. Document metadata can reveal authors, edit histories. Network logs contain connection information. What's more, AI can sometimes even infer metadata if it's been deliberately scrubbed or removed, based on context or other clues. And data mining AI can do things like match writing styles across different anonymous documents or link seemingly separate social media accounts through pattern recognition in behavior or connections. Incredibly powerful for building profiles or tracking individuals, and increasingly we're seeing multimodal fusion. This means combining multiple types of data for a richer, more accurate analysis. For example, a model might jointly analyze a photo and its text caption together, using both to understand the context better than either alone. Or a system could fuse video footage from a drone, intercepted radio chatter from the ground, and satellite imagery of the same area into a single, unified analysis. Research is exploring what's called querying across modalities, where you could potentially ask an AI something like, show me recent aerial images near the location where this audio clip was recorded. This shows really powerful cross-sensor correlation potential, truly integrating all forms of data. And finally, anomaly and pattern detection is vital, especially for finding the unknown unknowns. Graph algorithms and unsupervised machine learning techniques are used to detect unusual patterns in large data sets. Things that deviate from the norm. For example, a sudden, unnatural amplification of a specific hashtag on social media could signal a coordinated disinformation campaign. Abnormal login patterns to public services might indicate credential theft. This is critical for fraud detection, flagging emerging threats like maybe new militia symbols appearing online or unusual flows of money between suspicious bank accounts. Identifying things a human analyst looking for specific known threats would likely miss entirely.
Wow. That's an incredibly powerful technical picture you've painted there. Can you give us a quick tour of some of the actual tools being used out in the field, the ones that harness these AI capabilities?
Certainly. There are many specialized OSINT products out there now that incorporate these AI methods. Some are quite well known. For instance, Palantir Gotham and Foundry are data integration platforms, heavily used by militaries, intelligence agencies, even prosecutors. They apply custom AI analytics for things like link analysis, connecting people, events, locations, and complex geospatial correlations. BabelX, from a company called Babel Street, is an AI-driven engine specifically designed for multilingual social media and news analysis. It classifies sentiment, intent, identifies key topics across huge volumes of global data. Clearview AI is that controversial face search tool we mentioned earlier, matching images against its massive scraped database of over 20 billion faces. Maltego is a graph visualization tool, very popular among OSINT practitioners for mapping relationships. It now incorporates AI-assisted transforms for automated data extraction and entity resolution, helping connect the dots faster. Then you have more specialized platforms like Turonis AI, which focuses on situational awareness through automated information gathering, and Lampire, which uses AI for multi-source data fusion and visualization. In the cybersecurity space, Darktrace is a prominent example. It employs what it calls self-learning AI for network anomaly detection. And Intel Fake Catcher is specifically designed for deepfake detection, using that unique approach of analyzing biological signals, like subtle changes in skin blood flow, to verify video authenticity.
So it's really not about one single magic tool then. It's more about these integrated workflows, these incredibly powerful AI-powered search engines for intelligence, giving analysts capabilities that honestly sound like they were purely science fiction just a short while ago. Okay, if we connect all this back to the bigger picture, what are the macro implications of this unprecedented power, this speed, not just for individuals, but for entire societies, for global dynamics?
The strategic implications are, well, they're profound. AI essentially transforms OSINT from the slow, human-intensive task into a near real-time capability, one that can continuously scan the entire global infosphere. On the one hand, this dramatically lowers the cost of entry for intelligence gathering. It allows smaller agencies, maybe even smaller countries, to tap into global data streams with sophisticated analysis tools they couldn't afford before. It shifts intelligence work away from just reacting to events towards potentially preventing crime and threats before they fully materialize. For instance, seeing early indicators of instability or tracking illicit shipments. That speed can be genuinely life-saving in situations like disaster response. Getting aid to the right place quickly based on real-time social media reports and satellite imagery analysis. But it's also deeply chilling when it's misused. As we saw in examples like the potential for mass detention of protesters identified within hours through facial recognition and social media scraping, the net effect is a significant shift in power dynamics. Institutions, particularly well-resourced ones, gain this collective intelligence edge over individuals, creating potential imbalances that we need to grapple with.
Yeah, that shift in power dynamics, that sounds like a major concern, especially for democratic societies, doesn't it?
It absolutely is. AI OSINT massively amplifies the capabilities of those entities that already have resources, governments, large corporations, allowing them to surveil and profile populations with an ease and scale never before possible. This creates that classic dual-use dilemma, the very same AI tools that help human rights investigators meticulously document atrocities in conflict zones. Those same tools can empower repressive regimes to monitor their own citizens. Consider the Chinese government's reported extensive use of AI-driven CCTV networks combined with social media monitoring for social control, particularly in regions like Xinjiang. Even within established democracies, there's a significant risk of function creep. Tools initially built and justified for narrow counterterrorism purposes might, with just a policy change or under pressure, be deployed against political opponents, whistleblowers, or minority communities, expanding their use far beyond the original publicly accepted intent. This isn't just a theoretical risk. It means tools designed, say, to catch terrorists could potentially be turned against your local community organizer or investigative journalist.
And we've touched on examples like the Delhi case, where AI got it terribly wrong at scale. What happens when these systems, which we know are fallible, are deployed so widely? What are the real consequences of errors?
The potential for abuse and error is really a critical ethical crossroads we're facing. Machine learning models, for all their power, are inherently fallible. They're probabilistic. And they can, and often do, reflect the biases present in the data they were trained on. An AI system scanning photos might misidentify an innocent person as a suspect, as happened in Delhi, leading to wrongful arrest and imprisonment. Or an NLP model might incorrectly classify someone's speech as extremist or hateful, perhaps just because they use certain keywords taken out of context, leading to deplatforming, job loss, or worse. When such errors occur at the scale AI enables, their consequences are magnified enormously, potentially ruining thousands of lives through false accusations or targeting based on fundamentally flawed information. Furthermore, AI enables entirely new forms of abuse. Imagine an agency subtly manipulating publicly available data or planting sophisticated disinformation online, knowing that AI analysis tools used by others might accept it uncritically. This could create these dangerous feedback loops of misinformation, deliberately destabilizing public discourse or framing adversaries.
Which brings us back again to the regulatory and oversight challenges. Are there any comprehensive frameworks actually in place, or even seriously proposed, to manage this rapidly evolving technology on a global scale?
Regrettably, no. Not really comprehensive ones. There's currently no overarching international framework specifically governing AI OSINT. Existing privacy laws, like GDPR in Europe or various state laws in the US, often contain exemptions for publicly available data. This effectively allows potentially unlimited scraping and analysis by these powerful systems, arguing the data was open to begin with. Regulators, as we said, are often playing catch-up. They struggle to understand the complex AI pipelines, the algorithms, the data sources, and legislation inevitably lags far behind the pace of technological advancement. Even where specific bans exist, like on government use of facial recognition in some cities, they can often be easily evaded. By outsourcing the analysis to private companies or using data provided by federal agencies not bound by the local ban. While we do see efforts like the EU AI Act trying to establish risk-based categories and safeguards, its full scope, its actual teeth in terms of enforcement, particularly regarding national security exemptions, are still very much open questions. Without clear international rules, without mandated transparency about how these systems are used, and without meaningful avenues for recourse when errors occur, individuals are often left completely in the dark, with little power to challenge potentially life-altering AI surveillance decisions.
So, what's the broader impact then? On trust in institutions, on the functioning of a free society. When these systems become so pervasive, almost invisible, what's really at stake here?
The societal consequences are potentially immense, really foundational. First, there's that profound chilling effect on free expression, on assembly, on dissent that we've discussed, knowing that every tweet, every photo, every online comment could be monitored, analyzed, and stored indefinitely by powerful AI systems. It can understandably deter people from engaging in lawful protest or even just expressing controversial opinions online. People self-censor. Second, there's a significant erosion of practical anonymity. Activities or associations that people once thought were reasonably private, maybe because they were fragmented across different platforms or offline interactions, might now be inferred or reconstructed from patterns hidden within vast amounts of seemingly innocuous open data. This can seriously erode public trust. If people fear constant, opaque AI-driven monitoring, it can ironically hinder cooperation with legitimate law enforcement investigations. People become less willing to share information if they think it might be misused. And finally, the rise of sophisticated synthetic media deepfakes critically complicates the entire OSINT enterprise itself. It makes it increasingly difficult to verify whether a piece of digital evidence, a video, and audio recording, is genuine or AI-generated. This threatens not just specific investigations, but public discourse and democratic processes themselves by undermining our collective ability to agree on basic facts and discern truth from fabrication. So yes, AI has turned OSINT into an incredibly powerful but definitely double-edged sword. It offers unprecedented capabilities for security and knowledge discovery, but it simultaneously poses fundamental risks to privacy, fairness, and democratic values if it's not governed very, very carefully.
And this incredible power, as we've discussed, has these profound implications. But here's where it gets, well, really interesting and maybe a bit scary. It truly becomes a modern digital arms race because the same powerful AI capabilities can also be turned against us, right? Weaponized by malicious actors. How is generative AI being used as a weapon today?
Oh, absolutely. Malicious actors are definitely weaponizing generative AI. And in increasingly sophisticated ways, they can use AI to analyze a target's public digital footprint, their social media posts, professional connections, stated interests, and then craft hyper-personalized and incredibly realistic phishing emails, SMS messages, or social media outreach. At a scale never before possible, these AI-driven attacks are often indistinguishable from genuine human communication. Imagine getting an email that perfectly mimics your boss's writing style, references a recent project you discussed, and urgently asks you to click a malicious link or transfer funds. It's becoming harder and harder to spot the fakes. In more advanced scenarios, AI-powered chatbots can automate real-time interactive conversations with potentially thousands of victims simultaneously, posing as customer support agents, recruiters, or other trusted personas to coax sensitive information out of people. Beyond just social engineering, generative AI is also being used to create more sophisticated malware. AI systems can analyze vast amounts of existing malware code, identify successful attack techniques and evasion methods, and then rapidly generate new, unique variants of malware, designed specifically to bypass traditional signature-based antivirus and security measures. This dramatically accelerates the development cycle for new cyber threats. It creates a situation where defenders, relying on older methods, are constantly struggling to keep up with the sheer volume and novelty of AI-generated attacks. It's a perpetual game of digital cat and mouse. And additionally, there's the threat of data poisoning attacks, where adversaries subtly inject malicious or biased data into the training sets used to build legitimate AI models. This can corrupt the model's behavior, causing it to make bad predictions, misclassify things, or develop hidden vulnerabilities that the attacker can later exploit, essentially sabotaging the AI from the inside.
And deepfakes. They're not just theoretical curiosities anymore, are they? They're a very real-world threat. Yeah. Capable of manipulating what we see, what we hear, with alarming realism.
Absolutely. Deepfakes, those AI-generated videos, images, or audio files created using deep learning techniques, are designed specifically to deceive, for social engineering, for spreading disinformation, for fraud. We've already seen high-profile real-world examples, like that case of the UK energy firm's CEO. He was tricked by an incredibly convincing audio deepfake, perfectly impersonating his parent company's chief executive's voice, complete with accent and speech patterns. He was instructed to urgently transfer €220,000 to a fraudulent bank account, which he did. This demonstrates the very real, high-stakes financial and reputational damage that can result from these sophisticated deceptions. It's not just hypothetical. And on an even more disturbing societal level, reports indicate that a significant percentage of deepfakes circulating online are unfortunately used for non-consensual pornography, targeting individuals, often women, by inserting their faces into explicit content without their consent. This highlights the profound ethical violations and personal security harms that extend far beyond financial fraud.
That's deeply concerning. Thankfully, AI is also being deployed to fight back against these very threats, isn't it? What does this counter-revolution look like in practice? How are we using AI to defend ourselves?
Yes, thankfully it's not all one-sided. This creates that perpetual AI arms race we mentioned, a dynamic, escalating cycle where both attackers and defenders are constantly leveraging AI, making traditional security measures increasingly obsolete on their own. On the defense side, we're seeing the development of AI-powered deepfake detection tools. These use various techniques, machine learning, computer vision, biometric analysis, to try and spot the subtle artifacts or inconsistencies that might indicate a piece of media has been manipulated. A particularly novel approach comes from Intel's fake catcher technology. Instead of just looking for visual flaws, it analyzes underlying biological signals supposedly present in real videos of people, specifically the subtle changes in skin color caused by blood flowing beneath the surface, what's technically called photoplethysmography, or PPG. The idea is that these faint, almost invisible watermarks of being human are very difficult for current AI generation techniques to replicate accurately, so analyzing them can help verify video authenticity. Other platforms, like Sensity AI, use a more multi-layer approach, combining different detection methods to identify alterations at scale across videos, images, and audio files. In the broader cybersecurity defense realm, platforms like Darktrace represent a direct response to this AI-driven arms race. Rather than relying solely on a database of known threats, which AI-generated malware can easily evade, Darktrace employs self-learning AI. It first learns the unique pattern of life for a specific organization's network and digital environment. What counts as normal behavior. It can then detect subtle deviations that signal a threat, even completely novel attacks it hasn't seen before, including sophisticated AI-driven cyber attacks. And crucially, it can often provide autonomous responses, neutralizing threats in seconds or minutes, faster than human security teams could typically react. Similarly, platforms like IBM Watson for cybersecurity use advanced NLP and machine learning to analyze vast streams of security data from multiple sources, logs, threat feeds, news reports. They automate threat analysis, correlate indicators of compromise, and monitor the dark web for chatter related to the organization, providing a more holistic, AI-augmented defense against the rapidly evolving threat landscape.
So it really is this dynamic, escalating cycle, where traditional security measures alone just aren't enough anymore. That idea that who rules AI commands intelligence. It applies directly to this new form of conflict, doesn't it? Where information superiority, both offensive and defensive, is increasingly determined by who has the better AI, the faster algorithms, the smarter defenses, #tag outro show. Well, we have certainly taken a deep dive today into how AI is profoundly reshaping open source intelligence. From governments using it for national security to journalists using it for investigations, it's democratizing access to incredible analytical power. But as we've seen, it's also raising these monumental questions about privacy, about ethical use, about bias, and maybe even about the very nature of truth in our increasingly digital world.
Indeed, and I think it's important to reiterate that the future here probably isn't about AI completely replacing human analysts, at least not anytime soon. It's much more likely to be about augmentation, about creating a symbiotic hybrid model where AI handles the really heavy lifting, processing the massive data sets, identifying patterns, flagging anomalies. This then frees up the human analysts to focus on what they do best, applying nuanced judgment, making complex ethical decisions, understanding context, developing strategic interpretations. The ultimate goal isn't just big data, it's achieving decision advantage. By combining the speed and scale of AI with the critical wisdom, the creativity, and the essential ethical oversight of a human, shifting the focus towards creating truly smart data.
That makes sense. This whole revolution in AI OSINT, it really is a testament to both the immense potential and the profound risks of modern technology, isn't it? And its ultimate impact, whether it leads to a safer world or a more oppressive one, or likely some complex mix of both. It really will depend on how we collectively navigate this complex landscape. That means developers, practitioners, policymakers, and importantly, you, the individual citizen, staying informed and engaged.
Absolutely. And maybe here's a final thought to leave with everyone. Consider this paradox. As AI becomes more and more effective at generating realistic disinformation, at creating convincing deepfakes, the general public's ability to trust any online media, any digital information, inevitably starts to erode. This creates a fundamental challenge. The very same technology that can be used, as we saw, to expose truth, to hold power accountable through investigative journalism and OSINTing, that same technology is also being used to manufacture falsehoods on an industrial scale. So the question becomes, how will we as a society adapt our very understanding of truth and evidence when our information sources can be so easily, so convincingly manipulated? And what critical role human discernment, skepticism, and media literacy play in navigating this new, often confusing reality? It's something worth pondering, I think, long after our deep dive today.
A really important point to end on. Thank you so much for guiding us through this today. And thank you all for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and maybe a new perspective on the powerful forces shaping our information landscape.